This is Nathan Brusky, chair of the County Legislature's Public Works Committee. I want to welcome all of our members to our Zoom meeting today, and also to extend a special welcome to all of you who are live streaming this event at home. The COVID age has caused us to try to work around the spread, and so we certainly appreciate your flexibility in meeting in this way. Before we begin, I know that the Majority Council has a statement to read about the compliance of this meeting.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the members of the committee, as well as anyone watching live, in order to comply with Governor Cuomo's executive orders as they relate to the open meetings law, we are streaming this meeting live on YouTube, and there's also a call-in number available for the public, as well as this live stream. I was discussed before, make sure to keep your cameras on, but this will be sufficient to comply with open meetings law requirements as amended by the executive order.
Outstanding. Can we please call the roll?
Yes. Mr. O'Brien.
Here.
Mr. Bergdorf.
Here.
Mr. Cleary.
Present.
Mr. Fine.
Here.
Mr. Purley.
Here.
Mr. Peter.
Here.
Mr. Reinhardt.
Here.
Mr. Smith is absent, I believe, and Mr. Bruschi.
Here. Thank you very much. Before we begin, I just want to also extend a special thank you first to all of our personnel that are currently serving as essential workers at this time. You know, we have a lot of people on our staff of the county that continue to put their lives in some measure of harm's way out there right now. So thank you to them for the work that they do, and also thank you to our staff here that have helped make this meeting possible. The first meeting on our agenda, item number 1, is approving the previous meeting minutes.
Motion, Mr. Chair. Matthew Peter.
Motion by Mr. Peter,
Second.
second by Mr. Bergdorf. All in favor, say aye and raise your hands. Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, raise your hand, say no. Carries unanimously. Thank you. Our second meeting is an item amending resolution 525 for 2019 regarding the landfill treatment at the Water Purification District's North Plant. We have a member of the executive to join us on this.
Mike, unmute yourself.
Oh, hey, good call. Thanks, everybody. Thanks very much, Mr. Chair. And I'd also like to echo the sentiments. Thank you to Majority Council and the Chairman's office. It's been an interesting few weeks, and we're very thankful for the flexibility, frankly, given all that has transpired. So with that in mind, for the second item, this is just the annual contract with Capital Region Landfills. That's actually the Colony landfill, just for those who are curious, for the treatment of leachate at our water purification district.
And this we're just changing. I think the previous language was a fee per year of $55,000. All it is, we're just changing it to $25,000 per year plus the 1 cent per gallon. And I guess it's that math is on change.
Yep.
Do we have any idea what the, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman?
I recognize Mr. Bergdorf.
Do we have any idea what the net revenue change will be to the county if we go from a flat 50 to 25 plus 1 cent a gallon?
As with, frankly, just for members of the committee, I likely, just because of the way this is running, so that we could have a little bit quicker of a process, I'll probably have to get back to the folks with answers to pretty much all questions. Hopefully I'll know a few off the top of my head, but I'll have to get back to you.
Mr. Bergdorf and Mike, if I can just jump in, Mr. Chairman.
Please.
So it's not, this amendment, Mr. Bergdorf, is not adjusting in any way the previous resolution. So the previous resolution and this one are both for the same amount. The request is coming, an amendment is coming from Angelo at the Water Purification District. Essentially, we wrote the original resolution to factor in the 1 cent per gallon at 3 million gallon fee. Angelo requested that we amend this to leave a little wiggle room in case they go over it. Some of this is paid for through some of our grant funding, so they don't necessarily want to, in the resolution, add in the 30,000 built-in fee for the 1 cent per gallon fee on top of it. So it adds a little more flexibility for the Water Purification District to leave it as 25,000 with 1 cent fee on top, as opposed to a flat $55,000 fee based on variability in the chemicals that they're treating.
So they could potentially end up with more income as a result. of
Yes, correct.
that. Okay.
Question, it could go either way,
Mr.
right? I
Reinhardt.
mean, it could be less than 55 or it could be
So,
more.
so Bill, Colony is paying us, they're paying the Water Purification District to treat this. So we charge a fee to do that. And if we put a flat number on it, it would make them they would make them have to come back. But yes, to answer your question, it could potentially go both ways. The executive director of the Water Purification District does not expect that. In fact, if anything, he expects it to go above, 55,000, and that's revenue coming in from our treatment of the Colony landfills leachate.
And presumably the, whatever expenses we incurred would get covered. So if we did more treatment, we get more revenue. If we do less treatment, we actually aren't spending as much money either.
Well, it's the treatment is a revenue. The 1 cent fee is a revenue.
Well, I
It's
know,
not-
but what I'm saying is if we end up doing less volume than
Right.
we anticipate,
Yep,
in which case our revenue is lower, our costs would also be lower, wouldn't they?
that's correct. Yes, in that case it would be, but the executive director doesn't expect it to be
Yeah.
lower
Okay, all
than
right.
previous numbers.
Chairman,
So are we actually, excuse me,
Sorry,
Mr.
let me
Chairman.
first recognize Mr. Cleary. Is this for
No,
a
go ahead.
question or is
Go
this for
ahead.
a motion?
it's for a motion.
All right, we'll go back to Mr. Bergdorf, please.
Just a quick question. So are we actually amending the old one or are we entering into a new contract?
We're amending, Mr. Berdorf, we're amending the old, we're amending the resolution itself. I don't believe there's a contract entered into because
Correct.
Angelo wanted this amendment before they entered into a contract.
Right, correct.
Well, because part of the backup is that in 2019, it went from 2019 to 224.
Mhm.
Okay, now the RLA says it goes from 2020 to 2025.
Yes.
So are we extending it?
So no, there was a scrivener's error on the original, some of the original things that were submitted for the original request. They want a different term, not that January 1/19 to 24 term. They want the January 1/20 to January 25 term.
Okay, so it is an extension of the contract as well as an amendment of the terms.
So I'm playing, there's no contract yet. This contract hasn't been written. This is, Angelo has been holding off on this until we amend this. So there's no contract in place yet to amend.
Pending any other questions, could I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
By Mr. Cleary, seconded by Mr. Reinhardt. All in favor, please say aye and raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no and raise your hand. Seeing none, it carries unanimously. Item number 3 is authorizing an agreement with Bubona Holding Corporation regarding ash disposal at the Water Purification District North Plant.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. So this is the contract that we enter into for the disposal, or excuse me, the removal of the byproduct of our incineration process at the North Plant. Bubonia is the provider, and so they will be the provider of removing that incineration sludge from the property.
Okay. Any questions from the members?
Mr. Chairman?
Motion by Mr. Peter, or is that a question?
Nope, motion, sir.
Motion by Mr. Peter,
Second.
second by Mr. Reinhardt. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Carries unanimously. Thank you. Item number 4 is authorizing an intermunicipal agreement regarding the Albany Pool Combined Sewer Water Overflow Long-Term Control Plan.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this is the next authorization request for the intermunicipal area that is covered by our water purification district. It covers the Albany Pool communities, cities of Albany, Cohoes, Waterloo, Green Island, who are members of the district, as well as the cities of Trevor and Rensselaer. So this is a renewal for 5 years.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, I recognize Mr. Bergdorf.
that is not the total community that has an agreement with the water purification district, because I know that there are other,
Well,
yeah, that Colony is in there. Can you explain to me why these communities are being chosen with this agreement? Is this have to do with the overflow into during rain incidents and that whole plan?
Yes, so this is the cooperative control related to the combined sewer overflow discharges that these communities produce.
Okay, so that's why it doesn't include the other communities that are members of the sewer district.
Yeah, there's a long-term control plan related to those that are the CSO communities, et cetera.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman,
thank you very much.
Yes, Mr. Peter.
but if there's no further discussion, I'd like to make a motion.
Any further questions? Seeing none, I see a second by Mr. O'Brien. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. Carries unanimously. Thank you. Item number 5 is authorizing the submission of a grant application to the New York State Environmental Facilities Corporation regarding the Water Infrastructure Improvement Act grant.
Yeah, so we're coming back to you. I'm sorry, I just want somebody to have something to say. We're coming back to you folks for authorization for a grant application. The project's total for the anaerobic digester was recently increased, and so it actually allows the project to qualify for more grant funding. So we're coming back for the grant application, which will actually increase our qualification for, I think it's a limit of $12.5 million.
And I guess this would also let this technology kind of pay for itself. Is that right? This would end up not costing us any money.
Right. Well, so actually, there's thresholds. So the project was previously under $50 million, so it only qualified for $5 million. With the increased expenditures, it actually now qualifies for 12.5. So the difference actually will work out significantly in both our end and Saratoga County's benefit.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Bergdorf.
just for the members' edification, this was pretty thoroughly discussed at the capital plan meeting where Mr. Guardio gave great detail as to the justification of the increase in cost and the probability of getting the larger grant. So I personally feel very comfortable with it.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Cleary, yes.
there's no other discussion. I'll make a motion to approve.
I have a question.
And we have a question by Ms. Reinhardt first, please.
I am in totally favor of this if it works. My question is this: given that we are in the middle of a pandemic where the state budget is being crushed, are we at risk here? Do we have to renounce the $5 million grant before we know whether or not we get the $12.5 million grant? Do you follow me?
Mm.
In other words, if we can submit this as proposed and we retain that 5 million as sort of a guaranteed money, and then we don't renounce it until after we know we've gotten the grant award for the larger amount, and that we therefore get that extra 7.5 million, and then can we renounce the first grant? Or do we have to renounce the first grant and then hope that nothing fundamentally changes with everything that Paul alluded to with the earlier discussion, favorable feeling towards funding it. I'm just nervous about, given the state budget situation, we could end up getting pardon my language. In fact, I won't use that language. We could just lose the 5 million and not get the larger award.
So we won't have to, there's no renouncing of the previous award. We're really just submitting a new application according to the new amount. And if we're awarded that new amount, it kind of cut and pastes on top of the existing, because if you're getting a higher amount, then you no longer get the lower amount. We're not saying, oh, heck no, we don't want that, the 5 million, give us the higher amount. We're just letting them know we have a more expensive project and therefore we qualify for more funds.
All right, then fine. I wasn't sure from some of the language that was in
That's
the
fine.
backup material.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr.
I just
Peter.
would like, if there's no other further things, I'd like to second Mr. Cleary's motion.
Outstanding. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Seeing none, it carries unanimously. Thank you. We are now on to item number 6, which is authorizing an agreement with Atlantic Paving Marking Incorporated regarding the stripping of various county highways. Seems like now that no one's on the roads, might be a good time for this.
Right.
I'd like to make a motion to accept it.
Second,
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Carries unanimously. Item number 7 is authorizing an agreement with Gorman Brothers Incorporated regarding cold in place recycling projects for county roads located in the town of Queens, Guilderland, Knox, and New Scotland.
Yes, hopefully you folks can still hear me. My computer seems to have
Yeah,
frozen.
you're good.
We can hear you.
So yes, this is one of our annual contracts. The award was given to Gorman Brothers. This is the normal cold in place recycling. There's going to be roads. These roads are specific to Queens, Guilderland, Knox, and New Scotland.
Outstanding. Any questions from our members?
Chairman,
Motion by Mr. O'Brien. I see a second by Mr. Peter. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed, say no. Carries unanimously. Moving on to number 8, which is authorizing an agreement with MJ Engineering and Land Surveying PC regarding the design and construction inspection services for County Road 157 Phase 3 Highway Improvement Project in the town of Colony.
All right. Hold on. Sorry, everybody. Just give me 1 second to scroll.
so moved.
second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say no. Thank you very much. Item number 9 is authorizing an agreement with Greenman Penderson Incorporated regarding design and construction inspection services for County Road 405, an old Ravenna Road Bridge superstructure replacement project. And I understand there is a desire not to go with our lowest bidder, but we believe that this is the lowest responsible
That's correct.
bidder based on the qualifications.
That's exactly right.
Any questions from our
Motion.
members?
Make a motion.
Second.
Motion by Mr. O'Brien, second by Mr. Cleary. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say no. Thank you very much, everyone. Number 10, authorizing agreement with Foyt Albert and Associates regarding design and construction inspection services for County Road 402, County Road 404 culvert replacement project. I believe this is a similar idea as the last one.
That's exactly right. Yes.
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Bryce, second by Mr. Peter. Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 Aye,
Any opposed, say no. Carries unanimously. Thank you. Item number 11 is authorizing an agreement with Callahan Industries Incorporated for hauling and placing of asphalt concrete on various roads in Albany County.
Motion.
Motion
Second.
by Mr. O'Brien, second by Mr. Peter. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Carries unanimously. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Peter.
would it be possible to to make a motion to group 12 through 17, assuming the rates are comparable?
They
You
are.
took the words out of my mouth. All in favor
Sorry.
of this, a second by Mr.
Clear.
O'Brien, I see. So we're going to group 12 through 17. In favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. Motion by Mr. Cleary, for items 12 through
Second.
17, seconded by Mr. Peter. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Thank you very much. These are all just 3-year releases, very standard.
Yes.
Ending with item number 18, which is authorizing an agreement with National Business Technologies.
Well, don't we have to pass these? We just authorized to
You authorized the group.
group them.
Did we? I thought we grouped 12 through 17. Did we group 18 in there?
No, no. Paul, I
No,
think
we just grouped.
we did both.
Oh,
Yeah, we did. Paul,
yeah.
we
It
did
was
both.
the first vote was the grouping, the second vote was the passage. Did you have any questions on any item, Mr. Bergdorf?
Well, it's a generic question. The fact that there are so many events that have been canceled at the TU and the uncertainty of large gatherings in the future, does that have any impact on the contracts?
So that's a question that we actually haven't had. I can follow up and get back to Mr. Bergdorf. The one question that we had received was, would these folks, the reason that we wanted to move these forward is because we wanted to get them under contract.
Right, I
generating
understand. I'm not,
But I'll have to follow up and get back to you.
I mean, maybe you shouldn't bring it up.
Well, it passed. I guess they're on the hook now.
Yeah, just find out if there are exit clauses here.
Yeah. Great question on that. We'll move on. Our last item of the evening is item 18, which is authorizing an agreement with National Business Technologies regarding the lease and maintenance of services for county copiers in various locations.
Yep, this is just the normal contract with our copier provider. They've been purchasing an excellent provider, had no complaints, and so their pricing has been consistently low, and for that reason, we're asking for another contract.
That's a rare thing to find in a copy vendor.
Yes.
Any motions or questions from our members? I see Mr. Bergdorf.
motion to move.
Motion to move, second by Mr. Peter. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. Carries unanimously. Could I now have a motion to adjourn the meeting? Motion by Cleary, second by Peter. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Thank you, everyone, for your time tonight, and thank you for speeding this along.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Mr. Chairman.
Excellent.
Be
meeting.
healthy.
everyone.
Be safe.
You too. Everybody be safe. That's right.
Be careful.
Talk to you, Jeff.